So there's two essential options where you would look to get to the root of anything. Number one is the Torah. Number two is the Word, right? Because like it says that God, whenever God created something, God said that thing, and then that thing came into existence, right? God said, let there be light, and there was light. So the root of anything is the speech, is the Word itself, right? Just like it says in the beginning of the Torah, Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. In the beginning, God created, what does it say? In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, right? That's if you're translating into English, but this is where we lose it with the English translation. If you look in the Hebrew, it says, Bereshit bara Elokim. In the beginning, God created et Aleph to Taf, the Hebrew language. And then God goes ahead and takes the Hebrew language and creates the heavens and earth. And so this is the idea that at the root of anything is the name of that thing. So we're hopefully, I don't know if we have time, but hopefully be able to actually see some of these ideas of Purim see certain things from the Torah, see certain things from the Word. Let's start with the Word though. If something is called by the name Purim, that means that if we want to get to the essence, the root, the personal implication of what Purim is going to have in my life. So we're going to start with the Word, and then we can get to the essence of the thing. And of course, what does Purim mean? Lots, lotteries, right? Because essentially what we're looking at in Purim is, and I'm sure some of this you're going to have heard before, some of it not, so we'll hopefully put it all together and then get deeper. But essentially what we're talking about when we talk about Purim is that Purim is the concept of lotteries, but not lotteries, right? Lotteries because it's the example of the game of chance, right? And what Purim is really all about is seeing how in the Purim story there was a whole bunch of chance things that took place, right? Achashverosh got drunk, killed Vashti, happened to take in Esther as the queen. Mordechai happened to know all 70 languages and happened to overhear a plan, and then he saved the king's life, and then a king happened to remember about it exactly at the right time. Haman built a tree, Haman built a gallows to hang Mordechai, and in the end it got flipped on its head, and it ended up that the gallows that he built ended up being his demise. He ended up being hung on the gallows, and of course that's obviously a Cliff Notes version of the story, yeah? But the point there is that it's all about happenstance, coincidence, political maneuvering, and it seems like God was not involved. Matter of fact, of course, many of you might know that in the Purim story, how many times is God mentioned in the scroll of Esther? 0 times. Directly, God is mentioned 0 times in the scroll of Esther, because the point is that there really isn't much of a mention of God, because this is a special time that we're looking for God even where it's not all that clear, right? And that's important, because the relevance of this conversation about what Purim means to our life, we have to understand, is the personal application, right? Because what a holiday is, most people have a misunderstanding of Jewish holidays. People think that a holiday is like a memorial. We're commemorating something that once was. But in Judaism, we have to understand, really, there's no remembrances, there's no commemorative events, there's no memorials. This is not a sale, sorry. Right, that's what it is, right? American Memorial Day is a sale? Okay, fine, whatever. But really what we're saying, actually, is that what we mean by a memorial, what's that Hebrew word that they usually translate as a memorial or remembrance? That's Yiddish. No, in the Bible, the good book, Zikaron or a Zecher. Right, we say on Shabbat that Shabbat is Zecher. Thanks. That Shabbat is Zecher L'Tziat Mitzrayim, or Shabbat is Zecher L'Maaseh Bereshit. That it's a remembrance to the Exodus from Egypt, a remembrance to the act of creation. But what we really mean by remembrance is we're not saying that it was something that once was, but what we mean by remembrance or memory is it's kind of like when you remember something. Right? When you remember something, what are you doing? You're taking something that's in there, in the back of your mind, and you're bringing it forward to the front of your mind. Right? It's a transference. Right? When a person remembers something that really means something to them, or an experience that really affected them, maybe it's something emotional, maybe it's something that was a scary episode in the person's life, but whatever it is that affects a person right now in the here and now. A person's heart starts to beat faster, they start to sweat. Right? So what it means is that it's not just a remembrance of something that once was, there's a certain level of re-experience that's going on there of that event. You're feeling a flavor, you're experiencing a flavor, tasting a flavor of that thing from the past right now in the here and now. Right? And so this is really what we mean by the Jewish holidays. That it's not just something that we're cut off from and we're trying to remember a historical event. We're saying here that there's a certain climate in the air, there's a certain energy in the air during all the seasons, during all the holidays within the Jewish calendar. Right? And every holiday has its certain energy that's in the air. Right? For example, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, those are times, of course, of teshuvah, of repentance, of coming back to God. Now the truth is, you can do teshuvah any day of the year. But, particularly during that time, like the gates are more open, the energy is more in the air. Right? Or Pesach. Right? Pesach is a time, like you can quit smoking any day of the year. But Pesach is that time of personal freedom, getting out of your exile. Right? So, particularly at that time, energy is in the air for personal change, for personal freedom. Right? So, right, Tisha B'Av, of course, also. Unfortunately, we know that in Judaism, in Jewish history, there's been the difficult times of destruction, all times of the year. But particularly during the time of Tisha B'Av, that's the time of Jewish destruction. And God willing, it's going to be the time of Jewish redemption. But so what Purim is all about is getting down to the lotteries of life, the games of chance of life, right? And that's what our entire calendar is really all about. If you look at the Jewish calendar, we understand really that there's two beginnings of the calendar. You familiar with that? Right? What's the first month of the year according to Judaism? It's Nisan. But you also see that Rosh Hashanah takes place in Tishrei, right? We say the beginning of the new year is Tishrei. So they call it the Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah. It's not true. It's the world's New Year, right? Jews included. But it's really the New Year for the world. Today is the creation of the world, we say, right? Or today's that time of the birthday of the world. So really, according to Judaism, that is the creation. That is the world's birthday. That's the beginning of the world for the world, right? That's the New Year for the world. But the Jewish New Year, that's Nisan, right? And so for the Jewish calendar, it starts off with Nisan, and that holiday of Pesach, which is at the apex of Nisan, right, the 15th, when the moon is in its full. And then it culminates in the month that we're in now, the month of Adar, is when it goes full circle. And that's when we have Purim in the middle of the month. Right? What's the difference between Nisan and Adar, and what's the difference of Pesach and Purim? Very simple. If you look at the Pesach holiday, you see that there's miracles happening left and right. God turns water into blood. There's frogs show up like crazy. Seas are splitting. Revealed miracles. Right? And that's, of course, by the way, why it's in that holiday of Nisan, from the word nes, which means miracle. Then what happens? We go full circle, right? And we get to the month of Adar. We have Purim, the holiday of lots, lottery, right? Lottery, the game of chance, coincidence, exact opposite of a revealed miracle. And the point is to get to the concept of Adar. Adar, of course, breaks down to Aleph Dar. What's Aleph? Numerically valued, of course, at 1. What's 1 in Judaism? God, right? What's Dar? Dar is like Dira, for example. What's Dira? An apartment, a dwelling. Right? The point is to be able to see that God is dwelling even here in the physical, even here in the natural, even here in the coincidences of life, even here in the nitty-gritty, even here when we think things are going normally, even in the political maneuvering. This one's going to become prime minister, that one's becoming president. This looks good for the Jewish people, that looks bad for the Jewish people, whatever. But to understand that really that's all God's just as much in that as God is involved in the miraculous. We see that that's essentially the cycle of Jewish history. That's really the goal of the Jewish people. The goal of the Jewish people, of course, is to take that concept of Nisan, the miracles, the Pesach concept, the time where we see God clearly, and then to be able to take that and to infuse that into the nitty-gritty of life, into the natural, into the supposed coincidences, into the supposed, just got lucky. No, right? The point is to go ahead and to infuse this world of non-clarity with the grander clarity. Right? To infuse this world where there's seeming non-God awareness, bring God awareness even here.